was the biggest thing to hit Jessup, Missouri since the Apollo 11 capsule drove through on the back of a flatbed tractor trailer. Because I had already experienced the Freedom Train, I saw no need to read about it all over again. So I turned my attention to the open window next to me and let my thoughts drift in the breeze. Soon I found myself sitting in the crux of my favorite oak tree, watching the afternoon sun ripple across the surface of Dixon's Pond, the smell of mud and water in my nose, the feel of tree bark under my bare feet. I could hear the zip of dragonflies and the rustle of an old turtle in the reeds. A sense of relaxation washed over me as I settled into my daydream, the only part of school that I found the least bit tolerable. I would have stayed in that lull until the bell rang had I not been pulled back to the classroom by the sarcasm in Mrs. Shaw's voice when the discussion turned to the missing woman. The way Mrs. Shaw went on, you'd think that Lyda Poe spent her evenings dancing naked in her front yard under the glow of a red porch light. Lyda Poe, Mrs. Shaw said, was 35, colored, and a divorcee. That last word dripping with such a thick tang of ruination that you were just sure that all of Ms. Poe's hardships could be traced back to that one original sin. The article didn't mention that Ms. Poe was a divorcee. Mrs. Shaw added that tidbit herself, and her tone suggested that she knew Lyda Poe on a personal level. Or more likely, she knew someone who heard something. Back then, Jessup was big enough that you passed strangers on the street every day, but at the same time, if someone went missing, everybody seemed to know a little something about it. The newspaper article pointed out that Poe worked in the purchasing department at Reich Manufacturing, the largest employer in Jessup. Reich molded plastics for use in everything from sunglasses to car dashboards. Those plastic phones that hung on everyone's wall, the ones with the long cord that came in every color of the rainbow, they all started out there in Jessup, Missouri. Shaw had once mentioned that her husband worked at Reich, which might have explained the connection. Whatever the reason, Mrs. Shaw didn't much care for the missing woman. The article gave little information as to why Ms. Lyda Poe went missing. It merely reported that someone stopped by her house and found her gone. It had been 2 weeks, and no one had seen hide nor hair of the woman. Personally, I didn't find it hard to believe that someone had up and left Jessup. What baffled me was why more people didn't do it. I looked out the window again and tried to get back to Dixon's Pond, hoping to stay there until the bell rang. I conjured up bits and pieces of the daydream, but they came and went, like a candle that just wouldn't stay lit. Mrs. Shaw had moved on to another article, but something about Lyda Poe's story kept me away from my daydream. I remember thinking that when the time came for me to run away from Jessup, I would be sure to leave a note. I didn't want students in some current events class reading about me going missing. Not that they would have cared. When the bell rang, kids poured out of their classrooms with the force of a river breaking through its levee. I headed down the main stairs, which opened into a hallway lined with mildew-green lockers, where I dumped my morning books into my locker, grabbed a yellow notebook, and headed to the cafeteria for lunch. I hated the lunch hour. Unlike most kids, I didn't mind the food. I mean, how bad can you screw up a hot dog? No, I hated lunch because I had no regular place to sit. Cafeteria politics dictated that I wait until the various cliques settled into their seats before I claimed a chair. My daily reminder of just how much of an